All right. Let me just share this to Slack real quick. We're going to be descending via, oops, wrong one. There we go. General chat. There we go, popping into infinite flight. So we are just coming up on Joni, the Joni waypoint. Coming out of Lauderdale, just want to check my AirPod battery, 90%. Okie dokie. My AirPods have been dying, excuse me, dying pretty quick on me. Yeah, that Delta guy got out in front of me. So right now we're approaching Joni. We got about 30 minutes to go here. So let's step through the star, right? So after Joni, we're going to get JFK, News, Fex, Ruiz. Clean this up a little bit here. We'll just hide everything. Try to hide everything. Right? Ruiz, Allin, Banky, ROBUC, Provy, Jody, Cran, Cradle, Kleb, Ethan, Patrick. And what I did is I took a look online on Flight Radar 24. What they did tonight for the flight that we're simulating, let me just hide the fixes here. What they did tonight was they basically took the guys coming off the ROBUC, descended them to 3,000 on the leg from Ethan to Patrick, right? So air traffic control gave them a clearance to descend via the ROBUC3, runway 22 left transition, right, which ends at tail. And as you can see, I've added a couple waypoints in there for the full base leg. So what they do is, you're at Ethan. Let me grab my charts. We're going to program the hard limits here. So the ROBUC3 is an RNAV star that you can get a descend via command on. Right? So you get the descend via, it'll say, JetBlue 170, descend via the ROBUC3, runway 22 left transition. So I've got the chart up here. So the first thing we got to do is hit FEX at flight level 230. That's a hard limit. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll put 230 in there. And we'll be descending at Mach 78, right? Then after that, you've got a couple at or aboves, right? You've got Allin, Banky. Allin is 17,000 or above. Banky, 16,000 or above. Then you got ROBUC. ROBUC is between flight level 190 and 12,000 feet at 260 knots. Then Provy is 11,000, above 11,000. Provy, which is Providence, Rhode Island actually, is 11,000 feet or above. And Jody, after Jody is Cran, 12,000 to 11,000. You have to be between 12 and 11,000 and 250 knots. Then you run out to Cradle, right? Cradle's going to be 10,000 to 8,000. Kleb is at 8,000 and 250 knots. Ethan is at 5,000 and 250 knots. Then you go Patrick, 5,220. Tail, 5,210. So you come down here, you make this long run across, and then after tail, I have Wheezy and PHQ in there, just to kind of stretch out the base leg, because the infinite flight autopilot, if it was bad visibility, I would run the whole mess. I would run the whole thing. If I just went from tail to noli, what happens, unfortunately, is once you get to Patrick, it basically turns you right for noli. You hit Patrick, it recognizes that you want to go to tail, and then if you have tail to noli in there, it brings you, it says, hey, why do you want to go over here, basically. So let's talk about a couple things here. In-flight assistant, excellent app, right? John Goering, great guy, huge asset to the infinite flight community. Kind of glad they haven't hired him yet, but they really should hire him. So we've got our co-pilot callouts. I'm just going to set my minimums for my ILS real quick. I'm going to fly the ILS 22 left into Boston here. So my minimums are ILS 216 feet. So that's good. So now we're going to focus on the VNAV, okay? So we know we got to be at FEX at flight level 230, right? Now, infinite flight assistant, if you don't give it enough room, right? For instance, if I put in 230, right, and then I put a hard limit in at ROBUC, say I said 12,000. There's only 13.6 nautical miles between Banky and ROBUC. Infinite flight assistant will climb or descend you at 5,000 feet per minute maximum. I should have John tweak that a little bit, maybe talk to him about it. Actually, see my sim brief top of descent is there, so I'm going to get rid of that actually while I'm thinking about it. So that's gone now. So an infinite flight assistant, you got to kind of pick and choose with the VNAV, because it can turn it into a violation-making machine, and then you'll be like, you'll think you're going to descend. It does not look ahead, right? So it doesn't look ahead. Let me just get rid of that. It doesn't look ahead. So right now, I'm going to news. I'm 11.8 nautical miles from news. Now I'm 11.4, right? It's not saying, hey, he wants to be at FEX at flight level 230. Let's start him down now and give him the proper rate. Once FEX becomes the active waypoint, and I'll jump out of the map here, and I'll try to slide this over here. So once FEX becomes the active waypoint, see if I can set this up so that you can see it. Infinite flight assistant's going to start us down. So what I'm going to do is, when we're about 30 seconds from FEX, I'm going to start slowing, or 20 seconds out of FEX, I'm going to slow to Mach 0.78 for the descent. And we've got a 3-minute and 41-second run to FEX, and we've got 14,000 feet to lose in, say, 3.75 minutes. So I'll just do the math real quick. 14,000 divided by 3.75, that's a 37.33 vertical speed. So I'm going to start down now, actually. Right? I won't even set the full speed, right? I'm going to start down. Mach 7.8. Ding the belt. There was a little bit of turbulence. Here comes infinite flight assistant, bringing me right down. 24.88, 38.74, 38.77. That's too much. I got to slow up. So I should have started my descent prior to FEX. My thing is, I usually go to Merit, which is over up here by KHPN. So I made a mistake there. So infinite flight, this is kind of good for you guys to see. It is cranking me right down. This is probably about 500 foot over the limit of what you want to give passengers. And as you can see, the speed's picking right up. So, word to the wise, start your descents early. I should have started my descent about a minute or two out of FEX. If I had given it 4 minutes for 14,000, 3,500, so I probably should have given it like 5 minutes. Now, let's go back to looking at the star, okay? Bring this over. So, FEX is 23,000. Ruiz is between 23 and 21. So we're just going to stay at 23. We want to be on the high end. If we were going to land on runway 4 right or left, we would want to be on the lower end of the scale here. We'd want to be crossing ROBUC at, 12,000, closer to 12,000. But tonight, we're going to cross ROBUC at like, probably about 17,000. Just to give it a ballpark. So let's see. We're going to have to speed up to 300 here once we get below 280. So we got 2,000 feet to go. And then 300 knots in the descent. So let's see. So I'm going to put in for ROBUC, I'll put in flight level 190, right? And then we've got 14.8 plus 8.5. Let's see what the time is on it, roughly. And we're going to slow to 260. Now, I can do one of two things here. If I was flying and I had somebody flying in front of me, I'm going to put the 260 here, okay? If I don't have anybody flying with me, I'm going to put the 260 one waypoint ahead. So this means that when I get to ROBUC, it's going to slow to 260, right? If I put 260 here on ROBUC, what it's going to do is it's going to slow down at Banky. So when you get to Banky here, and ROBUC becomes the active waypoint, Infinite Flight Assistant will slow you right then and there. It's only a roughly 2-minute run, 1 minute and 40 seconds. There we go. 300 knots. A little bit fast here.
Fort Lauderdale, Unicom.
So I've never tuned out of Lauderdale. Oops. So it's eased up on the descent now. Still pretty much the most you want to give is about 3,000 feet a minute. And it's still trying to crank me down. I'm trying to slow up the descent so we get 1,000 feet to go here. It's going to keep pushing me down. Now I can slow that on up. 200 feet to go. And see, I'm losing some speed. Plan ahead. Now imagine if that did that and you were trying to get from like 10,000 to 8,000 feet, or 10,000 to 6,000 feet, or whatever, or say 15,000 to 5,000. You're going to pick up a lot of steam. You know, you start going over 3,100 a minute in the A320, you're going to pick up speed. Even with, you know, the spoilers are just, you know, one position, but be careful with this. Please be careful with this. I'm going to just neutralize out my trim. So we're going to just level out here 23,000. So I got 190 in for ROBUC, and because there's nobody flying, you know, I got nobody, I'm just by myself tonight, I'm going to go ahead and put the 260 speed limit on Provi, which means I'm going to slow down to 260 at ROBUC. Not before, at ROBUC. So as soon as I cross ROBUC and turn towards Provi, the speed's going to come back to 260. Right? So then Jody, no restriction. Pran, we want 12,000. Right, so we get 7,000 feet to lose in 14.8 plus 8.5. 14.8 plus 8.5 equals 23.3. So 23 miles, and this is telling me at 300 knots. Actually, we're going to be 260, so I'm not going to have the right speed here. So 57 and 105, so 2 minutes. So that's probably going to turn into about a 2.5 to 3, a 3-minute run, I would say. We're going to lose about 40 knots of speed here. So 3 minutes, 7,000 feet. It's 2,300. That is a good descent speed. Pran also has a 250 knot restriction on it. So again, if I was flying with a group, the lead guy would slow down at the waypoint, overhead it, and put the speed restriction here at Provi, right? Everybody behind him would put the speed at ROBUC, right? It doesn't look ahead and say, hey, he wants to be at 260 right at ROBUC. It just slows you down. It's very basic. If you program it right, it works like a charm. So Pran's going to be 12,000 and 250. I'm going to set the 250 for cradle. Right? And then we'll say 9,000 for cradle, because we got to be between 8 and 10, and then Kleb is 8,250. Now, I've already got the 250 set. I don't have to put 250 in for every waypoint. Same thing with Fex, or Ruiz. I don't have to put in 23,000. I'm at 23,000. I'm maintaining 23,000. It's a done deal. We're here. We're at 23,000. Okay. So Ethan is going to be 5,250. So I plug in 5,000, and then Patrick is a 17-mile run, 16.9-mile run. Right. So I'm going to put in. I want to be at 3,000 at Patrick. Right. So that's 2,000 feet over. It's probably going to be about 4 minutes. At least 3 minutes. I can even, what I like to do is I'll descend manually, right? Once I get towards the end of the star, I'll descend manually. If I was going to fly the full star, I would put in all this stuff, right? So I'm actually going to close up the flay plane a little bit. I'm going to take out tail, Wheezy, and PHQ, right? And even Noli, right? And we're going to come right down to, I'm going to follow just like the real world flight did, right? Oh, come on out of there. So if you took a look at JetBlue 170 and looked at the playback for it, and I don't know if I can't really pop a screenshot up now because we're working here. So I want 3,000, and the clearance is usually JetBlue 170. How many miles is that? You're 4 miles from Wayne, cross Wayne at or above 3,000, clear the ILS runway 22 left approach. Right? They'd give you a base leg there, right? And they'd probably turn you a little bit. Matter of fact, I'd love to see if there's one more little. I don't think there's any other fixes. Could maybe put this one in there. Let's put dimes in there just for purposes of this. I'll probably be manual by then, at least on a heading. Let's see how that works. You know what? Maybe this might work a little bit better. Just a little something to give the infinite flight autopilot a little. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. That gives us a good chance to get established at 3,000. So we want to start coming down on that glide slope. You cross Wayne at 3,000 and you're going to know it. Okay, so we're coming up on Banky, and you're going to see how the plane. So I'm going to do the example. I'll put this 260 in here, right? I'm going to put the 260 in for ROBUC. Watch what happens here. See how that's slowed right now? Now I got 1 minute and 48 to go. I don't want to slow yet. I want to slow at ROBUC right now. So I'm going to delete that speed restriction. Come back off on the autopilot. You can see the vertical speed is cranking itself 2336, so it's just as I thought, right? I'm going to put the 260 speed restriction back in for Provi. Get a little bit of boards out there, slow down to 300. And just want to get a fuel check at ROBUC here. Why am I looking at this Apple chart? I should be looking at the ROBUC chart and then the ILS chart. Now, if I wanted to do the ILS on a dive and drive, right? Or if I was flying the RNAV, I would put in 3,000 for Wayne, 1,700 for Vocus, Zumo is 980. Zumo is 700. So it's Noli at 4, Wayne at 3, Vocus at 17. That's your intercept altitude, actually, 1,700 at Vocus. That's when you're supposed to intercept the glide. You can dive and drive from 4 to 3 and 3 to 17 if you plug those altitudes in. I find that unless you're flying an RNAV procedure like the RNAV RNP-19 at DC, which we've covered on here, or something where you got to let the computer do it for you, it's better to manually descend to the chart altitude, right? To descend to the platform altitude. Okay, so we're over Provi now. Slowing at 260. 19,000. Get a little bit of boards out. Don't let that come off too much. Trying to adjust the trim. Got my quick speed reading, fuel reading at Provi 83 12.4. So I'm ahead of the curve on fuel here, hopefully. And see what I just did there? I punched the autopilot, or the auto thrust. I punched it in, I turned it off, and I turned it back on. So we're going to go ahead and start down for 12,000. So I'm going to ask Mark to set the altitude to set 12,000. Set altitude 12,000. Right, and we'll start on down. We'll give it about, we've got 119 and 119, so 240, so about 3 minutes. So yeah, we wanted that 2200 or so. It's probably going to be 24 by the end of it. Thrust idle, open descent. So once CRAN becomes the active waypoint here, Infinite Flight Assistant will adjust the vertical speed, right? And I put cradle for 250 so I can keep the speed up. I'm probably better off. Probably better off if I was to slow down and I could get caught up on the fuel, because Jody is supposed to be 12.4, so I'm about 400 pounds. I'm about 400 pounds low on my fuel burn. It's not going to be a huge deal, but that's all right. Now here, Infinite Flight's adjusted me, and I didn't get the descent going fast enough, so it's cranking it right down. So I'm fighting against it here a little bit. And then it's going to be looking, once we get overhead CRAN, it's going to be looking for 250 knots. So a minute to go to CRAN. Yeah, my passengers are probably sick to their stomachs right now. Fastest I've ever gone downhill on a plane was minus 6,600 or minus 6,200. And there was a couple different theories from my pilot friends as to why that exactly happened. All right. Hopefully there won't be an interruption there. All right, leveling out, slowing at 250. And we're going down to 9,000. So one more thing I'm going to show you about the speeds with, how we fly a virtual blue here. Okay, now watch what I do here. I'm going to take the speed, punch it in, and then slow it right down to 250. So once we get away from Patrick, right, we're going to want to come back to we're going to come right back to 190 because that's the baseline, right? And we're going to do 170 to Vocus, right? And then after Vocus, what I have to do right now is I'm going to get my VAP speed, right? So 220 at 10, so it's pretty much right down the pike here in Boston. And this is common ATC. What they'll do is they'll give you 210 on the downwind, 190 on the base, and then they'll ask you for 170 or better, right? So you could do 180, we could do 190. find 170 works pretty well. I would not do that with the A321. It's a little funky lately, going low and slow. It's doing the porpoise. You know, it's getting into what they call a fugoid when it's low and slow. So next thing I gotta watch out for is my lights here once we're going below 10. So I got a few seconds. So I'm gonna calculate my VAP and set it in here for Zumo because I want to maintain that 170 right up to Vocus. And then so I'll put the speed in for Zumo. So we are landing. Our landing weight was supposed to be 134 even. So I'm going to calculate for 134. We're at 135, 160 right now. So we're going to be in the 134 range. So what I'm going to do is use my handy dandy app here, weight in thousands of pounds, 134,000, runway direction is 216, 216, wind direction is 220, and the speed is 10 knots. So that's going to give me a VAP of 138 knots. And our green dot speed is 202 knots for the weight that we're at. So that means below 202 knots, we're going to put out that first notch of flaps. And then below 190, we're going to put out the second notch of flaps. Come back to the map here. Oh, look at that. JetBlue 551, where's he going? It's not much of a flight plan. Landing lights. No, come on, Mark. So one way to make sure infinite flight assistance is still working is pop the spoilers real quick. Alright, so Kleb's at 8,000. And notice infinite flight assistance brought us down the whole time. Right? It's adjusted our vertical speed to right where we needed it. Like to keep that little ding below 10,000, let them know we're getting ready to land. So the airport's going to be at our, like, I don't know, kind of like pretty much 9 o'clock right now. 9 o'clock, and we've got 53 track miles to run. So remember, after Ethan, we're going to simulate an ATC clearance down to 3,000. Or even actually, you know what? I think they bring them in at 2,500 sometimes. I can check the JetBlue flight, see what they did. So I've got my approach speeds are programmed here. Right after Patrick, we're going right down to 190. Wayne, 170. Right, that'll happen in quick succession. And then we'll hold the 170 flaps 2 until we hit Focus. And then we will put in 138 for VAP. Let's see. Oh, interesting. So 634JB did the flight from Lauderdale to Boston, and they're still actually online, so I can still get the playback here. They're still showing online, so I'm going to try to screenshot this, and hopefully it'll post up in the thread. So they came in, yeah, they were on the high end of things. They crossed ROBUC at about 19,000. They crossed ROBUC at about 16,000, and then on down 8,000 at Kleb, coming out over the coast here, and then Ethan 5,000, and then they immediately descended from 5,000, and they held 3,000. It looks like they sent them just kind of like we're going here, a little bit north of Wayne to intercept at 3,000. Yep, and they were doing 183 on their base leg. Yeah, but that's ground speed. 183, and then they maintained 161 until Vocus, it looks like, and then when they landed, they were 130 over the ground. So let's probably about right. If the wind's 10 knots, there would be VAP. So we're pretty similar. So we got the ILS, gonna lock that in. I, for one, do not use approach at all. I'm gonna start spooling the trim back the right way here. We'll probably wind up with something in the neighborhood of 25 to 30% trim once we're fully configured for landing. Got a nice sunset out the left wing. Look at that. Who would have thought on a mobile device? Certainly not me. So we're 20 miles out on the ILS. This is the longest track run on the ROBUC3. Actually, I'm sorry, there is one more, 1.5 right. 1.5 right, you basically overfly the field and come up pretty much by Bedford. You go to Tackman. 2 interruptions for internet. So, let's see. Forget what you do. It's a different jet chart for that one. So let's see. So VREF is 130. So we want to touch down at 130 knots. Let's see. ROBUC3 10-2E. Okay. So you go Boxers from Jana. You go Jody, Jana. Right? Jody, Jana. Right? And then you go up to Boxers. So you come here. Boxers, Cheers, which I think is just north of the field. Boxers, Cheers. And then Red Hawk, or Red Hook. It's gotta be that one. So you go Red Hook, Tackman, and then you go, I don't know if it's Swig, whatever the ILS is. I think it starts at Woburn, which is Woburn. So what is the ILS? 1.5 right. Let's see. What are the waypoints? So you go Swig. So you go Tickman, Swig, Woburn, which that looks like it's out of position actually. Woburn should be right on the ILS. So it's Woburn, Maldi, and Zasmu. So that looks like it's an offset ILS. So the waypoints are a little bit off here. It's interesting. 149 degree heading. At any rate, we got to start getting down to 3,000 here. Got 2 minutes to go, so let's get about 1,000 on here. 1,200. You want to be nice and level. And let's go ahead and announce inbound for landing. 22 left. Left track.
JetBlue 170 is 15 nautical miles.
And what we'll do is we'll just call.
700 feet inbound for landing.
I'm going to actually bring it back to 220 for Patrick. Let's make it 210. So I can just punch it into the speed here, right? And watch. Look at that. Automatically, or auto-magically, if you will. Right, this is going to increase our time to run here, but that's all right. You want to do things nice and slow. Wicked wind from the west right now. Love to know what it is on the ground. 1,000 feet to go. Let's bring the vertical speed up a little bit. Right, 220. Put the spoilers away in a second here. About 215, and I'll do the auto throttle trick. All right, punch out. Punch in, set. Actually, Infinite Flight Assistant would have set that automatically for me. So we'll call base right after Patrick. And remember, we're going to go start bringing out the high lift devices. See, we're crossing underneath the ILS now. We're pretty much a beam with Wayne, so we'll be probably a dot or so low as we make our turn. little bumpy around here right now. Serious crosswind. They're calling it 220, so it probably is kind of a little further. Okay, leveling out at 3. Let's bring the trim in line. Let's see what it gives us here. Yep, that's good to go. So it's going to be flap 1 and flap 2 in succession pretty quickly here. And a little trick to remember, once you drop the LDG GEAR, I won't say it yet, flaps 1, flaps 2,
General Edwards Unicom, JetBlue 170 is on left base, runway 22 left.
let's see what we got, what we got. It's a quick run to Wayne, so want to try to make sure we hit that angle. And usually, actually, they give them a 310 heading. We're on 317. They give them 310 after Patrick. So let's activate Patrick, or activate Wayne. Right? So we're going to hold that. Drop to 170 greater. Cleared the ILS approach runway 22 left. Okay? It's important to keep the speed up, right? So we'll have a little bit of pitch up. You've probably felt this on a flight before. And I'm going to watch for the glide. I'm going to start coming down. Right? Here comes the glide. We'll start a slow descent. Just like 100 feet a minute, just to kind of keep it set. Remember, we're going to maintain 170 or greater to focus. The airport's just in the blind spot there. Right, so I'm going to leave this in nav. Let it intercept on its own. Right, I'm going to watch the glide slope.
General
I'll
Edward
take care of that
Unicom,
myself.
JetBlue 551, taxiing to runway 22 right.
Gonna need about 900 down to intercept. Wicked westerly crosswind right here. Doesn't even want to intercept.
General
So what I'm
Edward
gonna do
Unicom, JetBlue 551,
is take it over
crossing
at
runway 15 right.
I'll take over at focus. I'm gonna keep that caught up. Right? So it's gonna keep on trucking, right? And it won't quite intercept actually, because that's 23 knot crosswind, so I might actually adjust the ref speed. Okay. Get 900 down. Focus is supposed to be about 1700 if you want to be right on the money in focus. Right, but remember, we're going to drop 2 more notches of flaps and gear. So we don't want to, you know, we're going to have a ballooning
General
effect.
Edward Unicom, JetBlue 551, crossing
There we
runway
go.
15 left.
Any second now, it's going to turn and slow down on VF. Gear down. Gear down. Flaps 3. Flaps full. Ooh, Nelly. Alright, catch that glide now. Punch it in, punch it out. So we got a 23 knot headwind here, so I'm going to add a little bit of speed. We might not need it. Our VAP's 138, remember. I didn't recalibrate either, so there we go. A little bit above the glide slope. So the wind's clocking around as infinite flight wind will do. So it's probably going to clock around to 220 at 10. by the time we land. Oof, it's a wicked crosswind. Yeah, it's clocking. So see how perfectly, pretty much perfectly, the extra trim I got on is likely because of this crosswind, which is really strong. It's just pushing me right on over. So let's call final. 3 mile final.
JetBlue 170 is on
Yeah,
final.
slide this over a little bit
left.
more.
1,000.
Stabilized at 1,000. Man, this thing is really jumping around on me here. Alright. Getting a little bit above the glide here. And that wind's clocking and dropping, clocking and dropping. 20 knots of wind, we should have about 7 knots additional, so it should be 12 knots. So, like, theoretically, I should be at 142 here, but I'm not going to speed it up. 500 stabilized. Field's in sight. So that wind's clocking and slowing down.
400.
I want to drop it below. Now let's see if I can manage to not mess up when I land.
300.
Landing.
200.
Field's in sight.
100.
Autopilot's coming out.
50. 40. 30.
30.
20. 10.
Power's coming off. Set it down. And I forgot my spoilers. Oh, that was terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. See, I was going to say, the trick you're supposed to do is when you drop the gear, you arm the spoilers. And then I never did do it. 60 knots. Manual braking. Now that would have been a money landing if I had done it the right way and didn't have to reach for the spoilers. Let's see what we get from in-flight assistance. The flare. The flare and the touchdown were pretty good. Just the rollout was not so great. Where is this guy? Is he still here or he'd already leave? I don't want to cross the runway if he's trying to leave. I do not see this guy. Where is he? Did he leave already? Did he take off? Where'd he go? To right.
JetBlue 170.
Flaps, 0 degrees.
Right.
He's not down there, is he? Nope. And I'm getting off center line now. I gotta just double check the gate assignment. Call clear here.
General Edwards Yukon, JetBlue 170 is clear.
Go on to Alpha. Let me just check flight aware. JetBlue 170 arrived at the gate C14. Parking gates. Alright, C14. Where are you? Alright, first one in on the right hand side of Terminal C. So look at that, we landed right on the money on fuel. We're actually going to be a little bit over, I think. We're supposed to land at 134 nothing. We're down to 133.8 right now. That's how good that minus 15 performance factor is. Let's see if we can make it. I think we're supposed to have 7.8 remaining, so we're about 300 pounds under. Simbrief does a pretty good job. So our gate is 14, C14. It's over in the corner there. Let's do 15 knots if we can. I really would like to see, I know there's been a feature request on Infinite Flight, I really would like to see a locked view. So like if you could just lock this view, so that like when you're within 500 feet of the ground, you can't do that. You know, because I've done it when I pulled the throttle, right? And I've done this. I've done that when I've been looking for the rudder, right? It's happened to everybody, I'm sure. Alright. Okay, we're coming up on the alley. Let's slow to 10 knots. Oh, never did my lights because I'm yakking away here. Alright, 14. C14. So 1, 2, 3. The third one. 21's on the end, 14's the second one. I think this was I pulled into 14 the last time I came back from Florida. As a matter of fact. I think, last time I pulled into Boston, I pulled into 14. Turn in. Get on that set. Ooh, Nelly. There we go. 5 knots once you're on the taxi line there. And then 3 knots once you're coming up. Nice and slow. Tap the brakes, tap the brakes, tap the brakes. Okay. Engine 2, engine 1. Wait for 2% on the throttle, and then the beacon lights can come off. Or under 5%, I think. Beacon lights. Belts. No smoking. Nav lights stay on. We got a infinite flight operations report. 7.5 on the fuel remaining. 13.5 used total. So that's 300 for taxi. Let's see. End of flight. Yes, thank you very much. 239. And let's go shoot into IF Ops and see how we did. 111. I knew the landing was good. So this is JetBlue. I guess I could, whatever. JetBlue 170. Moss FLO ROBUC 3.22 left. Create report, and let's go take a look at my report. We'll take a look at the landing again if you guys want to. All right, so he put me at 20.9. I started at 21, so that's okay. So I'm minus 100 off the end, or at 100 on the end. So my sim reef number, my burn was supposed to be 12.9. En route, we used 13.0, so 100. And actually at 100 because they started me at 20.9. I was actually at 21. It was 29.99. So it was basically 20,996. So that's 21 theoretically speaking. So burn was right on, 13.0. Taxi to gate, so 500 for taxi. Beautiful. 7.4. Sim brief had us at 7.8, but that did not account for taxi, so 7.6 at 200 off. Takeoff was 152, which is exactly V2 plus 10, I believe. V2 for this flight was 141, so V2 plus 11. 91%. 6.4 until we got the nose off the ground. Final approach at 1,000 was 645. VAP was 138. That's good. The deviation's okay because we were the glide slope. We were a little bit high on the glide slope. We were 4 knots slow, so you want to be plus or minus 5 on the landing speed. So we were looking for 130 or 126, so we were within 4, so that's a pass. 111, pretty nice soft landing. And then landing nose angle, you want between 4 and 6 degrees. You don't want much more than that. Tail strike starts coming into play at about 7.5 on the 320. And bank angle's beautiful. So that's a good flight report right there. Should take one look at the landing and see how it would have been if I had my spoilers out. Would have been a lot nicer. Let's just go back and look at that landing. So see, if you use these VAP charts, it's huge. I mean, it's huge because it's so much more stable, right? I didn't really want to do that, but okay. Right? So we're cocked a little bit, and the wind's The infinite flight does that a little bit. The wind will shift on you at the last second. Right? The 2, 3, 4, and 10, that's what we were expecting. It's not what we got. So see, we're already ground speed of 126. So we basically flared into that, right? So this is where I adjusted for that wind. You can see the nose is still pointed off kilter here. And then I think I adjusted it right at the end. But look how stable the plane is. I didn't have to do very much, right? It's huge when you don't have to do very much, right? We hit the touchdown markers. Oh, look at that, right on the money. And then I realized I forgot my spoilers. If I didn't forget the spoilers, I would have been good, but I probably still would have done that, reaching for the throttle. So, decent, could have been a lot better, could have been a lot worse. All right, if you have questions about in-flight assistant, feel free to hit us up on the IFC or feel free to hit us up on Slack. We'll be glad to answer them for you. We have no problem doing that. Virtual Blue, of course, is powered by the in-flight suite of apps by John Goring, who is a gentleman, a scholar, and I'd like to think a good friend. Thanks for watching the ROBUC3 Star Stream, and we hope to see you in the very near future.